Hey, it's Trell Woodberry, created for the love of Jason, and you're tuned into Vitamin D with Dawn Dai. Check out my interview with her where I talk faith, vision, and drive wherever you get your podcasts.
Get your vitamin D right here with me and get excited about your life.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
Mr. Woodberry, how are you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm good. People have been saying like, Dawn, it seems like everything's good. And it's like, the fact of the matter is, it's always good, even the bad times. Because with so many transitions and these amazing things happening in my life, I had some trials and tribulations, but I'm still here.
Amen. Same here.
And listen, you sitting here on my dream, on the Vitamin D podcast. So I'm going to count it all joy. I'm good.
Good. Yeah, we're definitely glad to be here. See your face.
How you doing?
I'm great. I can't complain. Made it to 2021.
Hello.
A lot of things are happening despite, the pandemic. But hey, we're here and we're pushing.
Mm-hmm. And, it's so interesting. I just love when you said 2021. It was like, this 2020 we won. And, I've been talking to people on the podcast about 2020 gave us what we were looking for. They gave us this vision, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about, I study improv at the Groundlings, and I have my improv group called Cosmic Force, and we always instill this thing about a yes and. And so 2020 gave that vision, and you have to be really ready to stand in the fact of whether you want to receive it. And now this is the and person. This is the and one. If we were playing basketball, right? This is the time, the action to score, right?
Exactly.
So you relocated down to Atlanta. How's it treating you?
It's good so far, It's a little bit more open in LA. So it makes things a little bit easier. But still, of course, the rates are still jumping up or whatnot. But I'm closer to family, so that makes it a lot better. My sister lives here, and my mom is in South Carolina. So I'm able to travel back and forth and be around family during this crazy time, which is important, because out in LA, I have friends there, but it's nothing like fam. And it made it a little bit easier for me.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you're such in a season right now. And we're going to get to this season of your fruit being buried on the tree. It's nothing just to go back home, just to show you how you just rooted and having that connection.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to talk about how you've been able to tap into that source, because I come across a lot of people that talk about they got a vision. They have a dream about what they want to do. And they're like, well, how do I get it started? And as we're gonna embark and talk about your show For the Love of Jason and talk about how that vision, you shook me. I saw a recent interview of you on the IG Live. And you said, well, wait a minute. This was probably something that was just a dream, and you just decided to write it down. And people were like, well, how did you get there? And you were like, it was my faith. And you said, I'm a man of God. But before we get there, talk to us about who you are and this project For the Love of Jason that's on UMC.
Well, my name is Trell Woodberry. I'm a creator, an artist, just someone who loves to express myself. I love people, follower of God. And my project For the Love of Jason that, I've been gracious enough to have you be a part of.
Thank you.
Was just to bear the fruit of a vision that God gave me. It started out, I was in a crazy, crazy depression. Let me back up a little bit. I'm from South Carolina.
Hey.
And I have a degree in computer science. So I moved out to California in pursuits of entertainment, but working in engineering. So therefore, I had a pretty decent job, I would say. So I didn't have the struggle as most in the beginning. So when I first moved there, I was just like, okay, you know what? I'm not fulfilled. I know this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. But, coming from the South and, it's like, you should be happy. You should be grateful that you're an engineer, that you got this. But then whenever it's something that's not being fulfilled on the inside.
What you say?
I was like, I remember being at work, talking to God one day, and I'm just like, something has to change. I know I felt empty, And I was doing music. I came out singing. I was signed with an independent label. And
Trell,
music
you can sing. Don't think that you are going to leave this episode, this conversation, and not going to drop me a 1, 2, 3. And make sure we remember to get that. Okay, continue.
Years back, long time ago. So, and I always knew I was going to get into acting, creating, because I'm a writer. I wrote my own music. And then I was at work and I'm like, all right, I knew things just always seemed to come to me pretty easy. Like growing up. And I was like, you know what? I felt like I had to go through a struggle. It was the weirdest thing to me because I remember talking to God and I was like, I know I got to go through some things before I get to where I'm supposed to be, but I didn't expect it to hit me so hard. So
what do you mean by
that? Well, everything shifted. I got what I asked for. You know what I mean? I spoke to God and I was like, look, I'm not fulfilled. And I know I got to go through some stuff, and then he took me through it.
What did you go through, Trell?
I ended up losing my job. I ended up just trying to hustle. And the thing was, before I really went full force in entertainment, things would just come to me. Like I would just get a gig here, a gig there. But when I decided to fully commit to it, I couldn't get nothing. So it went from that, then I went through the struggle of trying to survive in LA with no money, whether I'm going to go back home, whether I'm going to stay here. So I just went through a real dark place, started losing friends, all the relationships. Of course, in California, as long as everything's good, you got friends. But whenever you start going through a rough season, you start really finding out who's there for you. And I realized I was like, ooh, okay, this is an awakening. But what it did was it brought me closer to God and made my relationship with him stronger because I had to depend on him.
Come on.
And understand where everything comes from.
Come on.
So literally I had no one to turn to but him, like no family, nothing. So the relationship started going bad, like career was going bad. And then I just found myself in this really dark depression. Then afterwards, I just started questioning a lot of things with life because I ended up losing 2 of my closest friends in the same year.
As far as friendship or friends?
No, like dying. Like 2 of my close. One of my friends got in a motorcycle accident, died. And this was like my closest friend since I was in school, like a kid. So there was that, and then there was one of my frat brothers that was like a big brother to me, like a mentor. He died. They both died in the same time, and then a very close cousin. So it was just kind of like within 2-month increments of each other. So it was just kind of like, and then I was so financially challenged that I couldn't even make it to one of the funerals. So then it's just kind of like, okay, so something has to shake. Like,
and what was that shift to make you turn?
Well, that moment I went through a really, really, really dark place, and I just kept talking to God and dealing with him, and just kind of like, and then I remember one day I was laying in my bed and, I was still writing, trying to get gigs here and there. And I created another series that I was going to try to pitch. And I created the series and I looked on Deadline, the same idea got picked up by the same producer I was trying to get the idea to. So at this point, I'm frustrated. So I'm like, you know what? I can't win for losing.
The same Deadline that your series got featured in, right?
Right.
Okay, we'll go back. Okay, I just want to make note. Won't he do it? Okay.
Right. Full circle. And then I'm like, all right, well, I said, God, okay, if I'm not supposed to be here, if this is not what I'm supposed to be doing, let me know. Am I supposed to go back to Carolina, get me a regular job? That life, like, I just need to, I'm tired of trying to figure it out by myself. And I'm just depending on you, and I'm letting go of everything. So then God just started talking to me that night, and he's just like, you're talking about your past, but I gave you so much in your present to work with. And literally, I had so much things that was just on me. Like, I mean, it was the most randomest things that kept happening, which you see some in For the Love of Jason. But it was just things that were happening. I'm like, this can't be life, And God's just like, use that. So I mentioned it to one of my friends, and I started, and he thought it was funny. And I'm like, this isn't funny. This is real life. Like this is my life right now. It's just all over the place. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go ahead. And I got up that night. I wrote the treatment in less than an hour because I had so much on me. Like just all the things that I was going through, like in my relationship, in like my career, everything. So, as you see in For the Love of Jason, it's just like everything is kind of like falling down on him at one time. Mm-hmm. And it's just pressure. And I just had so many things that was just stories that I had, like you only seen a glimpse of it. You know what I mean? That I had that I just let out in this treatment. So after that, I was just like, okay, let me go ahead and push the project. And then I spoke to some people and they were like, oh, you know what? That's a dope idea. I can get you a meeting with this network, that network.
Wait, you got to tell us, what was the idea that you're fishing around?
Now that's where, before it was For the Love of Jason, the show was called The Man's Perspective. Mm. So like the thing is, and I guess it's a little segue. No one ever thinks about the thing that men go through, especially Black men. We always looked at it like as an object and never like, oh, we got feelings too. We go through dark times. We need someone to have our backs. And it's a lot of pressure on us because we're expected to hold everything up. You know what I mean? And
I had that conversation with Anthony Hamilton. We talked about that because with his song Mercy, he said, you have to realize the pressure. Where can you turn where you can feel? And his song was such a combination of having strength and vulnerability.
Right. And one of my favorite singers, by the way. And it's just kind of like, I felt like no one understood me. And I just wanted to kind of like, I just got it out through writing. I was like, I'm gonna just put it out here. And it was like therapeutic for me to write all of this out. So I just started writing it out. Of course, like all the meetings that I thought I was supposed to get never happened. How did you know that you were writing it correctly?
Because sometimes people get in a situation and they're like, oh, I don't have the information. I gotta wait. I gotta have the intro first, then I'll have the meat of it, and then I'll have the ending. What was that process like?
God gave me the word and I went for it. Like he was like, do it. And I went in there with all trust without any doubt that it was going to happen. I just went forward with it. Because the thing is, people are always going to have an opinion. Someone is going to always find a way. Well, you should have did it that way. You should have did it this way. And it's like, no, I'm doing it my way. The way that it was revealed to me,
Hold on. So wait, I got a segue. Not extension. Right here, what you're talking about. I say this, how I've said this in the past is that sometimes you have to treat people as if you have a white outfit on. Because you don't lean everywhere. You don't put yourself in different situations that are going to get you, quote unquote, dirty. With their negative viewpoints, with their approach, with their energy, you have to think about, how can I still exist without being affected? So you kind of keep a distance. So this is when you started grabbing my attention. I started recording. I want to play an excerpt. And here is where you were exactly talking about how your faith and how you are a man of God and you are particular with the company that you keep, right? Because birds of a feather flock together.
Exactly.
Okay. So take a listen to this.
I'm a man of God and I believe in faith. And trusting God's word and very optimistic and just watching the people that's in your ear. When you feel like there's a lot of negative people just kind of talking, bringing you down, your energy, they're not optimistic. I had to remove myself from a lot of those people because misery loves company,
Mm-hmm,
and they would be trying to keep you down. And it's a lot of people, and I don't even think they know, but they would just bring like so much negativity and shape my energy. And I was like, yo, I gotta move that. Like if I'm on the phone and then you just bringing me negativity, I gotta get out of there.
I feel like some people.
Hello. I gotta get out of there because I gotta save myself. Okay, I'm listening.
And that's just, that's a hard lesson that I had to learn over the last couple of years. Because before, I used to let people affect me, their opinions, and I would just wear it on me. From family members, like everyone, they're not going to understand. They're dealing with their own fight. It's your challenge to fight your own.
Because it's your vision. You know what I'm saying?
It is. And no one else is going to get it but you.
And it's like, you said it from the very beginning. You said, Dawn, when I was sitting here and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, I had to stop. I had to go within. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting that the answer is always to go within. What is your desires? We know as a child what naturally comes out. Yet we go out and seek. We are rewarded and celebrated when we are ourselves. Yet we're only able to receive it unless someone else gives it to us. Isn't that crazy?
No, I'm telling you, it took a lot of therapy, which was why it was so important for me to show a Black man in therapy, not just a Black man, because I feel like everybody needs to go through therapy, but especially Black men, because it's such a thing, like, you know, you don't go to therapy, or in the Black community, it's like you go to church, you know, and it's like God made a therapist for that reason. You know, we need to get some of these things off of our chest. So therapy helped me a lot, you know, during COVID, during like just me switching over careers, having the confidence enough, reaching back into myself. And it's like a muscle in your mind. You know, you work out, you go to the gym to keep your muscles together. That's another muscle that you have to exercise. So the thing is, it was just so important. I feel like that's the most important, because if you don't have your mind, you don't have nothing, you know, and just being able to stay on that track of like, okay, self-care, making sure I'm good. Because if I'm not good, I can't be good to anybody.
Hello. And I talk about this all the time on this Vitamin D podcast. I need to start calling this the Vitamin D Lounge, because you're going to get some verbal libation that's going to get you excited about your life. But hello. Because I talk about how you are your greatest asset. And it's everything that you're saying. Because if we talk about our life bank account, you know, you have to understand that there are things that you are going to deposit and then you're going to withdraw. That's the yin and the yang. That's the dawn. That's the dusk. You know what I'm saying? That's the rise and the fall. And both are appreciated, because one cannot coexist without the other, right? But in understanding that you are your greatest asset, it is that check-in. It's that tap into who you are. And when you're talking about that, and I'm sure if someone, you know, as some people that we're gathering are new to the show For the Love of Jason, it's about a gentleman in his 30s, figuring out love, trying to date, balancing career, family, friends, and an old flame, and feeling the pressures of dating, right? And like you said, this gentleman, and I didn't think about it. I'm so glad you pointed that out, because people don't think about that when they think about vulnerability and making sure that they're their greatest asset of going to therapy. You are showing, as you are sitting opposite of Tabitha Brown as your therapist, and you're talking about the issues, and issues, the matters that you're dealing with.
Right. Because the thing is, it's just like, and what you'll see, like Jason's character, right? Jason, he doesn't want to fail. And a lot of times we get in our head, you know, and then we kind of like going in circles, because we're just like, all right, I don't want to, you know, do this. And then he has that moment with Tabitha in the second session with her, and he was just like, I just had to end with his relationship. And it's not just on his relationship, it's with everything, that he don't want to fail anyone. And it's like, he always feels like he has to keep it together. And he's a publicist. You know, they always care about image. So he's not supposed to show the side of him that's kind of like not together. His job is to keep it together, but he has to go out and work on that with his therapist. But, you know, it's just one of those things, you know, like I have a lot of friends, you know, that go through a lot of things, and we talk about it, and people would never believe the conversations that we have. And then like some of my female friends, they were like, they ask me when they're dating, like, what should I think? And they're like, I never would have thought about it like that. And I'm like, yeah, you know, and even like after the show, one of my friends was just like, you know, I have to go back and revisit some of my relationships because I probably approached it wrong. Like, because, you know, the things is we're just taught like certain things like about whenever there's a Black man being single at a certain time, it's always like, okay, what's wrong? Like,
and with no kids, I'm not gonna front. I had somebody recently, I was talking to a family member and talking about a guy, like he was in his 40s. It's like, what's wrong with him? He doesn't have any kids and he's single.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, some of us develop late. Then there's that, you know what I'm saying? We never know what circumstance could bring the person to where they are. You know what I mean? But it's just like you have to look at every situation uniquely. But if you just generalize everyone together, then you might be missing out on your mate. Just one, you know?
And then you see Jason going back and forth, and I'm so excited. I just love how this project just came together. Even how, we had our introduction on Zoom, but I feel like we connected after I had shot on my first day, and it was like, we just had this, whatever that was, it was like, okay, I don't know what happened, but that was supposed to happen. But it's amazing when I think of Sade and I look at Deshaun and working with them at A. Smith before, and I look at Kalila, who I was in a play years ago, and sticking to that vision, and like how you're saying these naysayers, how you're saying everything is opposed. I'm so grateful that you stuck with it.
And just to go back on a little bit, like keeping that energy and everything around. I remember Deshaun and I have been friends since I moved to Los Angeles, and I remember like just being in the trenches, and we were talking one day. And I was just telling her, I had this idea and just kind of like what I was trying to do and all the things I was dealing with at that time. And she was sharing some things that she's been dealing with. And I'm like, yo, let's just do it. Let's just
do it. Come on.
And then in Deshaun, she started out acting as well. We met at acting class, and then she started producing on the side, but she was doing non-scripted. Of course, with
A. Smith, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, yo, let's just come on board or whatnot. So then she introduced me to Sade. And then when we met Sade to bring her into the team, it was just kind of like really good energy. It was just like the right, when something just feels right, it felt right. And it was just like the way we were working and moving. And then I brought them on. I was like, well, look, I need a female's perspective in this. Can you all come on as writers as well? And they were like, it was a little hesitation at first, and it was like, yeah, okay, cool. So we formed the writers team. I brought in another guy just to kind of have, an objective on different sides. And we just knocked it out, and they came on board, and we wrote it without even having it picked up yet. The show wasn't greenlit or anything, and they trusted me enough to come in and believe in my vision to come on board. It's like, I was like, let's just write all the episodes. Let's have them done. So whenever we got greenlit by UMC, all the work pretty much had been done. We just had to go in and just carve some things around, but we had already did the work.
They say if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
I got to get ready.
You were sowing your seeds. See, it's so interesting, Trell. Like sometimes I feel like people think like, okay, man, when the opportunity comes, I'm going to be ready. I'm going to get everything together for when it comes. But it's like faith without works is dead. And it's not only saying you just do it. You have to act as if you are. God doesn't appoint to disappoint. So why are you waiting for somebody to crown you rather just walking in your glory, walking in it?
Literally walking in it. Like the only thing I had was what God told me. You know what I mean? In this situation, there was nothing. I'm like, and I'm one of those people, like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Come on.
And like, I'm like, it's got to happen. Like, it's got to, you know what I mean? And I was just fortunate enough to have the team I had to come on board, and we just went at it, and the doors just opened. And I remember having went through a little moment of doubt for a second, because I was like, damn, I done brought them on, like, and we don't work in the script, and now like no doors open in the shop. And then the door opened, and next thing you know.
Wait, why didn't you give up? When you felt like your door was not about to open, what made you keep going?
Trust, faith, and I just knew that God, everything, God didn't put me in this position for no reason, and things were revealed to me a while back. And like,
you better testify. You better tell us what happened. There's somebody out here who's looking for this message. What happened? There are plenty of people that just stop. Why didn't you stop?
Because I trusted his word and his promise.
What was the vision that came to you?
That I was going to open doors for others. I was going to be a creator. I could mentally see it.
Really? What did it look? How you like? People always talk about the vision. What did you see? Did you hear?
To go a little bit deeper, I always help. I have a lot of friends in the industry, and I've always helped with projects. And when I would help them with stuff, I knew, like, I was like, some people just don't get it. And it just came to me effortlessly, And I'm just like, okay, but the opportunity never opened up. It just didn't seem right. And I just felt like I was always being looked over, but God kept saying, you know how I operate in your life,
Come
you know?
on.
And
What?
literally he just kept, like, anytime I would feel like giving up, he would just slip in a reminder. And I would always follow him and search him and look for him to come to me and talk to me in some way or form. And he always did. And I remember I went to, remember when Tyler Perry had his studio opening?
Mm-hmm. The grand, yeah. Shabam.
That woke something up in me, like, cause it was just like, I knew, you know, like, and then it was just trying to get self, but I knew what I was capable of. And it was almost like me being scared of myself.
Come on.
And then it was just like, at that moment, I was like, nigga, go. Just do it. You know what I mean?
That's that thing when people talk about being afraid to be great. Like people, like a friend, like we can ask for these things we want out of life, right? Mm-hmm. Then there's this thing of procrastination because it's not like you're not expecting it, but you said something earlier is about what happens when you get everything you ask for, having the capacity to hold it. Because sometimes we want it, but you really ready to G up and hold it?
Right. And then when it comes, you got to be ready to go through that battle. You know what I mean? Because I went through, my depression was so long and no one knew I was depressed because I have a good poker face.
How do you know that you were depressed?
From 2011, 12 and I would say up until like 2018.
How did you know?
I just knew I wasn't right. Like, I felt like I was just existing for a while. You know, like I was in such a dark place. I started like secluding myself from people, it's just kind of like I went through the wilderness. And like through that, it made me come closer to God. Because the minute I would like open myself up to a situation, I would get hit with something else. You know what I mean? And it's just kind of like, then I just started like creating this shell around me, and during that time, I'm like, okay, this can't be it. And then just started talking to God, dealing with him. And for a while, I'm not even gonna lie to you, I was just kind of like, why am I even here? And it's all of a sudden, like, he's just like, okay, now it's time, and when that light switched on.
Wait, say it again. When the what?
When that light switched on.
Okay.
I was in the dark. I was in the dark for a very, very long time. And then all of a sudden, he just came to me and talked to me. And then when he talked to me, that night, literally, when I got up and I started writing that treatment, everything just started releasing out of me because I had became to the place of frustration. Like I was having a talk with God, like my conversation, it was aggressive. You know what I mean? It wasn't like oh dear God. It was like, look, what's happening? You keep hitting me with all of this, like, what's the purpose? Like what's happening, And certain things that I felt should have happened, he kind of let me know later on. You know how you're going through it, you can't see it until later on. It's like that door wasn't supposed to open. It's
supposed to be yours, so don't force it to be open like that.
But you don't know when you're going through it because you just like, you looking for that break. You just thinking like, okay. But it's just always having that underlining trust and faith in God that it's going to happen in the way that it's supposed to happen.
Come on.
I wanted like certain people. I have a lot of people that's close, that's very successful around me, and I couldn't understand for the life of me, like, why can't I get put on?
Because you can't force the spark that's supposed to light up your life.
Well, then also, he don't want anyone coming in and taking his credit.
Hello.
Because the way that it came into play how everything happened, it was nothing but God. There's no way. Like when people look at certain things, everyone thinks you have to go through this step, that step, that step, that step to get to this one place. And that's not it. Like whenever he works in a way when you like, that's nothing but God.
What you say?
Like you put in that, it's just like, that's the confirmation. That's the confirmation for me right there. When I'm in a situation where it's like, how?
What God?
You know what I mean? Like when it comes to that point, then I'm like, and it's just like, let's go. You know, like at that point, those are the things that when I look back at those small nuggets that he's placed on my journey, like those confirmation nuggets to it's going to work itself out and it's going to happen the way that I, designed it to happen, not the way that Trell wanted it to happen in his head. Because, for me, it would have happened years ago.
But then you're reminded that you are also a spiritual being, and it's that connection. You said a couple things. So, I'm a believer in God, a higher source, but I don't subscribe to religion. So you will never hear me say like I'm a Christian. Do I read the Bible? Yes. Do I see those principles? Yes. But am I going to say Christian? No, because my God goes by many names, which is stated in that book. And, depending on where you are, how you view him, it's just about the love and spreading the word of love. My cousin recently passed, and I had a conversation with her, and it was phenomenal. I've been sharing it. She died was it New Year's Day or the day after? But here's the thing. Yes, recently.
Wow, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, and it was on my father's side. So I just got connected with them. But when you were talking about the situations and you said with God, it is a word that has really stuck with me in this conversation. How whenever you put anything before God, it becomes negated. It's obsolete. It doesn't make sense. You can't count it. But if you notice with God, when you place him first, whatever that source, whatever that inner you, like you said, you had to flick on the light, this little light of mine. God says the light in the way. You didn't say find the potential. You said before I had to tap into something. When you place God first, everything becomes an and. And it's the yes and. It's always an abundance. And whether you want to look at an addition sign or whether you want to look at the cross, it's still to add in your life. And even with speaking, and it doesn't never say what you aren't, it's everything that you are. And here's the thing, Trell, you talk about this level of trust, right? How is it? Can you make sense of it? Why is it that we are more adamant to trust a piece of paper that has a name, a number, an email that says, oh, I've known Dawn Dai or I've known Trell Woodberry for 3 years, 4 years. When you talk about the work of God, homie goes for centuries, on eons, in every language, on every four corners of the earth. What do you have to second guess? He is the references of all references.
Right. Yes. And when you get to that place of submitting,
what?
Everything comes together. Like when you surrender and turn it all over, because I literally had to get to the place where I was like, God, I'm tired. Like, I'm tired of trying to figure it out. Like, and I've adopted this thing now. Like, anytime something stressful comes to me, I'm like, do your thing.
Hey.
Literally. It's like, this is not my burden to carry.
Hey.
Do your thing.
Hold up. And he said that I'm going to carry it. He, she, whomever. I got you.
Right.
Let somebody get you, because listen, if the vision came, you just have to keep going. And, here's another thing. I love this. And you talked about how you had to write the vision and why that's so important. And I still that, whether it's a vision board, whether it's just something as that reminder, because when we talk about being a spiritual being, having a human experience, there's a conversation and a connection. And it's the same conversation that you're saying when you were in despair, you had to go within. You were tapping in the conversation of physical Trell and spiritual Trell.
Right.
And if it's not already out there, physical Trell out here tripping like, I want it now. Give it to me now. Homie up here lying. You speaking bad. You forgot to listen to what spiritual Trell told you, because that's why you're in this situation. And when you are reminded by everything that's a facet that you are good, still be tripping. But that means that you're not ready yet, right?
Right. You know, and it's just like, when I look back at just some of the things and just how like God has protected me and carried me along the way.
Come on.
It's just kind of like, that's all the confirmation I need. You know, I remember moving out to California after college, couldn't find a job. And I'm a PK.
Oh, wow.
So I grew up always being in church, but never had a relationship of my own, you know? And it wasn't, I grew up Pentecostal, so you already know.
We in church 4 hours, 5, yeah.
But the thing is, like, I remember growing up, it was just like always about what you can't do, the rules, and they always made it just so negative and everything. And then, like, I remember going to college and just having my own relationship with God. And I had gotten to such a good place, like a good relationship with Him, just trusting and everything. And I remember going to, like, right after college, and I couldn't find a job. I was talking to God one day and I'm like, look, you know, I always wanted to do entertainment, you know, still like doubting myself. And then I'm like, should I just move like to California? So I spoke to my cousin, and my cousin was like, you can come here for a couple of weeks while I'm here and see if you can find a job. You will probably find something really quick. And I'm telling my mom, I'm thinking my mom going to be like, nah, you don't need to go to California where that's too far or whatever. So when I told my mom, and my mom was like, I think you should go. I'm like, what? Yo, so it hit me. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm going. You know what I mean? But I had nothing in concrete, but I was just trusting that God was going to handle everything, right? I didn't have a job. I'm moving like across the country. I didn't know anybody in California. One cousin that was about to be deported like within a month or so. So it's just like I had to get this together within a month. And the way I got there and the way God just placed everything that I needed in my life, you know, I got a job, I got a signing bonus, like set up, I'm doing my music thing, like things was just coming, you know? And then I went through a rough patch, but the thing is, I always go back to that moment of how God carried me and brought me through into my next season, and He's gonna keep doing that. So like when I look back at those things and know the things that God is capable of doing, it's just kind of like, it's the evidence is there, you know? And like literally, I remember going to the job fair when I first moved to California with no job or whatnot. I walked into the job fair. It was like, oh, this is for new grads. So I was walking out of the job fair, whatnot, because I'm thinking I'm gonna get a job bartending. I'm like, well, I'll just bartend it, you know what I mean, wing it out. But God had another plan. So as I'm walking out the door, they're like, Mr. Woodberry, could you come back? My manager's manager want to speak to you.
What?
So I was just like, okay, cool. So she's like, okay, let me see your resume again. So she's going down my resume. She asked me like maybe 2 or 3 questions, and she was like, I'm gonna make you a job offer today. And I'm looking at her and she's like, you didn't think you were gonna get a job today. And I'm looking at her like, what? Like it's no formal interviews, just a few questions. And like, they gave me a job, a signing bonus, like straight out of college, like making crazy money. You know what I mean? Taking care, like God had everything placed for me. And it was just like, how? You know what I mean? Like it just didn't even like really make sense. But I just knew that even going before I got there, that He was going to handle it. And I went through a season where I kind of went through the trials and I got away from that. So when I got away from that, that's when that wilderness came. And it was like when I went back through that whole, because I felt like it was just to make me stronger. I had to go through things to make me be able to adapt to, you know, what was designed for me.
Right. Can you really hold it? See, wait a minute. Hold on. Here's the thing. When you think about it and they say like, you know, the potter's house, right? Mm-hmm. And we ask God to mold us, right? Because even as a being, do you understand that the mold is going to take pressure? You're going to be spinning in circles and confusion, but you got to know that you're rooted. You got to know who has their hands on you. And guess what? You're going to get a little wet. That might be some of your tears. That might be some of the rainy days, right? Then I'm going to be pressed. I'm going to be conformed. But you got to, what you say, trust the process. And guess what? Even after being so uncomfortable because you're pulling on me, you're pinching me, you're carving, you're shaping, you're going to test me under the fire too?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Potter's house.
Yo, that's so real. You know, like it's been so many parts. Like, you know, like a lot of times we're like, this doesn't even make sense. You know, like why am I here? So I put it to you like this. Going through, like trying to find a job to give me flexibility to create was tough, you know? So coming from engineering, that's like a 9-to-5 job. So I was like, let me get
money.
Yeah. So I was like, let me get into sales, something that will give me flexibility. You know what I'm saying? I can create on the side or whatnot and, you know, keep food lights on or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm able to where I'm able to live in California, not be homeless somewhere. So I couldn't understand. I was like, so I ended up working at an HR company. I was like, what? Like, am I just moving all over? Like, what am I doing at an HR company? You know what I mean? And it's funny how God works because he moves in a way that you have no idea. Like when I worked at the HR company, I didn't realize he was giving me the skill set of what I need to run my own production company, to be over people, to oversee a production company. You know what I mean? Like all the things that the management of people, how to operate, how to start a business, an LLC, you know, like, so I started in a job at an HR company in sales, but I'm going out to different companies, showing them how to operate and run their own company.
Come on.
Then it's just like, okay, it changed my mindset. It's like, look, you need to be in charge. You know what I mean? And then it's this lady, and I don't really, you know, people always like, I got a prophetic word for you. I'll be looking like, yeah.
Right. Normal.
Like I'll be waiting on you to say something that's kind of like a little left. So I'm like, yeah, that negates everything else that you said. And she prophesied to me that I was going to create opportunities and jobs for many people.
Wow.
She didn't know when I went in to see her, because she's like she's a life coach. But like, so she didn't know when I went in to see her what I did or anything. So she just started talking, and she just started speaking some things to me that there's no way that, you know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah. So, and it was just crazy because I have my discernment is on point. Like it's on point.
How did you do? Okay.
And like, when I went to see her, I knew that, like, cause I was like, okay, I felt in my gut, I needed to go see somebody just like to get that shift, you know? And she starts talking to me, and she just starts saying stuff that only, like, there's no way that she would even know, you know? And then at first I'm still like testing everything she says to me. I'm like, yeah, okay, you could that could fit for anybody. That's just generic. So then she started getting personal, and I was like, okay, you know, so I'm listening. And then she starts, and remember you were saying, how did I get to that place of understanding like what the purpose and how did I just know? Mm-hmm. When she was saying the stuff to me, like the chills was just going through me because it was stuff that I already knew on the inside.
Come on.
That I walked away from as a kid, like my dreams and things like that she was just resurfacing. And that's when I was like, okay, God, I'm here. Let's go. Like, I get what you're saying, to the point where she didn't know what I did, because she didn't know like my background or anything. And then she was like, a guy's perspective. And when she said that, I was like, wow. Because that was the name of the show initially. You know what I mean? So when she said that, I'm like, yo. And that's the exact script that got picked up.
Wow. Wow.
Everything.
Oh my God. So then what made you change the name then?
The network. The network. Because they, and you know me, I'm like, look, you change it, whatever you want to change it, you come back. But then, you know what? I'm glad that they did change the name of it because, like, I know a lot of people, you know, they always think when they hear love and it's in a romantic way, but that's not always the case. So with For the Love of Jason, the meaning for me is Jason finding love for himself.
Wait, when I said, that was me getting it like, it's for the love of you, the betterment of you.
Yeah.
With your sister, your mother, your friends,
Exactly.
your job, taking a chance on your drink.
Yes. Finding himself, you know? Like, and, you know, as you'll see.
Isn't that what we're doing in life, Trell? Aren't we finding ourselves? Finding our way back, Trell, to what you said that you had to get to the mind of a child, Trell? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So whenever, like at first when they brought the name, I was like, and then when I thought about it, I was like, yeah.
Yes, and
like, this works. Like, you know what I mean? Because he's really trying to find himself. You know, he's really like his love between him and his mom, his sister, like you said, his friends. Like everything. And it's just kind of like, so I feel like everything just came together. And the way the project just came together, it was like, God, like, you know, just how, and you experienced it with us, just amazing. The energy that we had, like the connections on set, how everyone just got together in jail. And I think like the pandemic made it even more dope experience because everyone was so bottled up, was so happy to be around people again. It just made people, I felt like, just love on each other, you know, just kind of like, and we were able to create something that, you know, I'm proud, and I'm hard, but I'm proud of the show.
Come on, black man.
And it's just kind of like, you know, now it's just like the doors are open and, you know, I've been, you know, grateful enough to be able to do this project with a lot of friends. And I remember being a little, you know, back and forth with it at first because I'm like, you know, part of me, it was just like, you know how people be like shady and you be like, but then I was like, nah, that's not me. That's not what I'm about. You know what I mean? Like that's on them, what they do. You know, I remember speaking to 𝘧𝗪𝘋. Yes. And she's just like, so how many people did you know? And I was like, and I told her, and she was like, that's what's going to set you apart, you know, as far as going forward. And just like, I believe in doing people right and it'll come back to you.
Come on, energy.
And, you know, a lot of times I kind of like, I felt like over the years I had started hardening it up because people always just do you wrong whenever you like the nice guy. You always trying to help somebody out. They like take advantage and you start building this wall, this exterior. But I had to bring that back down and just kind of like, all right, you know, I'm not going to be stupid. I'm not going to be ran over, but I'm not going to let what you got going on affect who I am, you know? So I just had to kind of like move in a different direction, get away from that. Cause you know, every now and then you get that moment like, but it's just like, nah, I gotta do right. And I would want somebody to give me, I'm doing what I would have want someone to do for me, you know, situation, like give somebody an opportunity or things like that, you know? So that's, thank you. And like, you know, that's just kind of like the way that I looked at it. But I'm really happy with the project. I've been fortunate enough to work with a really dope team over at UMC, like Red Dismute and Nikki. They've been like a whole nother family. Like they're like friends with me. It's just been a dope experience. Just kind of like to go through and how all these people were placed perfectly in the
alignment, right?
Yeah.
So you said all these doors are open. Is there a season 2, 3, 4, 5? Are we continuing? What's going on? Like, what's happening?
Well, hopefully.
Wait a minute. Now, you done came on here talking about how important it is to write the vision. You sat here and said, Dawn, I wrote out the entire season. before it got picked up. But what you mean, hopefully? What do you want, Trell? I'm in the business of speaking life. I have life tatted in my mouth.
Right. Well, technically, I can't say that if we're green, because I don't know if we're greenlit for a season 2, but I'm claiming.
Do you want it? What's the vision?
Of course, because there's so much more that Jason has to go through. There's so many more levels. There's so many more things that I want to get across, like, and to help people heal through. Like, I remember just like going through my situation. I would have loved to have a show like this to watch, to go through, like, because like for me, I love television, right? So like anytime I get stressed out, something happens, I zone out, I'll just turn on the TV and just escape my life and just fall into whatever is on television, you know? So to be able to look at something and being able to relate, you know what I'm saying, as an African-American male going through some heavy stuff, you know, we need to see more of that. You know what I mean? All of us aren't like the stereotype, you know, like how they try to paint us. Everybody, all of us not thugs. You know what I'm saying? Like as you can see on the show, everyone is employed. Like there's no, like, you know, I'm ratchet. It's some ratchet moments, but it ain't really, you know. So those types of things, like good representations, just showing that we're normal people. And we don't see a lot of that on television. So that was one of the things that was important to me, like to kind of get that out. And I feel like there's so much more that I want to explore and kind of show within For the Love of Jason, as well as other projects. But yeah, so season 2, For the Love of Jason, we're going to claim it. It's coming. And I do have some other stuff that I'm working on as well, like in development.
Anything else you want to tell us? Any other things that you can talk about? Because I'm sure listening to your story, I know that I am sitting on the edge of my seats to see what you have next.
So there's another show that I'm working on right now as an EP. And can't really talk about it yet until it's official when, you know, it's not I didn't create it, but I'm the executive producer. That we're pushing forward. That's dope. It's a whole nother level.
Congratulations.
And then, thank you. And then also I'm working on a feature as well, a feature film that I'm creating. And it's on a project that I started before I did it as a short. And I'm just going to expand it as a feature.
Well, now that you're actually building and creating all these other projects, one can only say that you've been getting great feedback on the show For the Love of Jason. What have they been saying?
Yes, great feedback. Like, I'm surprised at some of the feedback that I'm getting, like from very hard critics, like people that just ignored me before, like now they're wanting to open doors for me. Network is extremely pleased with the project. It's been received well. Like I've been getting a lot of messages in my inbox, people really tied into the story with their opinions, which, you know, it is what it is.
Man, you got me when you and Carmen, when y'all had a conversation.
Yeah, some moments. It's some moments in there.
I felt her, I heard you, and I was like, man, I want to be mad at you. Then I was looking at her sideways, and I'm like, but listen.
Right. Because the thing is, in relationships, sometimes we only can see what we're going through and not the other person. So I feel like if you can show that, you know, like my thing is, I always want to know why. Like, you know, like when someone responds or act out in a way, what made this person get to that? So like in the future seasons, we're going to dig deeper into the backgrounds of what made Jason so like indecisive and what made him so, you know what I mean? And what made Brian, you know, kind of deal the way he deal. And we kind of touched on a little bit with his relationship.
I don't know what his deal is. Because I got confused. At first I thought it was an error. Then I was like, oh my gosh. And then at the end I was like, wait a minute.
Well, the thing is, we touched on a little bit. I don't know if you picked it up, but like
I did. I heard it.
His mom issues, you know, like things like that. Because how we deal in relationships, and this is probably a whole new project, but how we deal in relationships deals so much with our childhood and how we were brought up. And we're just like grown kids trying to really handle all those issues we had from a kid. You know, like, and it's just like for me going to therapy, it took me a lot to realize what made me move the way that I move. You know what I mean? Like in relationships. And I'm like, yo, why am I so like unattached and things like that? Like what, but it's rooted from my childhood. You know what I mean? So like those reasons why it makes you a little bit more empathetic on the person opposed to judging them. You know what I mean? Like, okay, like, so opposed to just being upset with the response and the aftermath, what made this person get there? Like, cause that's somebody hurting and they're just acting out.
Come on, yes.
You know, so it's just kind of like, that's the other part, like of the therapy going in. And a lot of times you can't go to a parent or a family member because they're probably part of the reason why you're the way that you are anyway.
You know, I want to go to therapy. I've thought about it. My mother died, like it'll be, what is it? Is this 2021? So it'll be 8 years. Wait, what is it? She died in 2012. So it'll be 9 years, you know? And I think even without some process, one, understanding who I am and just as I'm developing as this woman, because I'm approaching the age where I met her, meaning when she gave birth to me, but then also of not fully understanding if I went through the grieving process. And like you said, like putting it on screen, I think it was so important because a lot of people don't realize why it's important to talk it out. And for you to sit here and testify to say, yo, when I went to therapy and I realized a lot of the things that happened to me in my younger years is why I am who I am. Kudos to you.
Real. It's so real. Like it's the most, and a good therapist too, because you can go to a therapist and it might not be the right person for you. So I say like whenever you go, if it doesn't feel right, then just try out a couple. But like, and be open to the process. You know
what I mean? Process? Like go up there and look and then go. I don't know. I said it in a funny way, but you know, I don't know how you look for a therapist.
Well, you can ask for a reference, or you can just kind of like go through your insurance carrier and whatnot, see, you know, who. And I found a therapist and a life coach. The life coach was referred by a friend who I trust. And I was just like, okay. And then I'm a little iffy, like going to a life coach who's dealing with some other friend. Cause I'm like, is that too close or whatever?
Right.
But yeah, but it was cool. It was totally cool. And, you know, the situation was definitely unique. But I just think that, you know, that therapy is so important. You know, like I felt like I wish I would have done it a long time ago and I would have probably been a lot further ahead. Just things. And I've always bought into, Black people don't go to therapy, that whole situation. And like you said, like the whole grieving process, that's interesting because my father passed back in 1998. And I remember going to therapy and I had never properly grieved. And I never had closure with my father. And it was a lot. It was a lot packed into that. You know what I mean? So whenever I opened it up, I remember when I walked out of that office, and it was the life coach, I would say more so in that situation, I felt like somebody just took a 10-ton stone off of me. Like, because I was carrying so much that I had no clue. I just didn't know because I was so adapted to just rolling with the punches and not really like, oh, I'm good. You know what I mean? It's nothing is really going on. But when you're forced to dig deeper and like really figure out like, why do I feel that way? What makes me move that way? Then you start realizing like, and how it affects all of your other relationships. That's like,
come on. Because it's an extension of you.
Yeah, it was tough. You know, like I remember just going through like one thing and I was just like, it was weird because I didn't grow up like really hearing I love you. So for me, it was, I remember my mom's first time telling me that she loved me. I was on my way to college and I was like, it messed up. I was like, what's happening here? Like I was so uncomfortable. You know, but then on the flip side, my father always told me that he loved me, but I felt that he never really did. But I felt like my mom did love me and she never said it. So in my psyche, you know what I'm saying? Growing up and like in a relationship, I'm not going to be saying I love you. but I feel like my actions, you should know that I love you by my actions.
Mm-hmm.
But that, everybody don't understand that. So being able to kind of like understand, like giving that, because I remember one of my first relationships in college, she's like, do you even like me? I'm like, what? But I had to realize like what you have in your brain as far as how to show emotion and stuff doesn't necessarily work. And then you have to work through that dysfunction of it. Mm-hmm. So then gradually start curving that around,
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you did step into that and do the work, because like you said, like, I love how you said the opportunity of how Tyler helped switch the light on. And, he spoke about, I think it was at the Oscars. He said, rather than trying to find my seat at the table, he said, I'm going to have to build my own table. Remember that? And bam. Right. And because, and I think that's what we have to realize when we talk about purpose and when we talk about this thing, and I talk about it, that's what the name of this podcast is, vitamin D. It's about something that you can't live without. It is the light of your life. It's that intuition. It's the spark. It's the inspiration. It's your why. If we break it down, we say it, energy all the time. Right. We say it's the energy. So I appreciate that you decided to take a chance on yourself. And, I'm just hoping that people realize why it's so important to take a chance on yourself. And somebody like yourself, you are scared, you're confused, you don't know, but you want to, make sure you go in and understand, like, you're here for a purpose. And to only understand the reason of your purpose, that you have to treat it with care. And that's remembering who you are and loving on yourself. And for the love of Jason, for the love of you, what you gonna do, boo? Right.
Hey, and always checking in with yourself too. Whenever you feel like, all right, I'm feeling a little rusty, like I'm starting to feel like I'm shifting back and moving backwards. Like I recently went through that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, all right, I felt like myself going backwards opposed to forward. And I'm like, all right, let me keep change things. You know what I mean? Like in the thoughts, and just also just the outside, just kind of like moving some of that stuff that's on the outside that's trying to get into my head and things like that. Just important, you know what I mean? So it's just like, all right, it's time to work it out again.
Tap in.
Right.
Tap in.
Right.
Wow. And just remember, like, I had Major, the recording artist, on, and he said, you can't fail if you don't quit.
Yeah.
You can't.
Nope.
And as long as you're alive, you can't quit.
Yeah.
I used to tell people to put your hand on your chest. You feel that? Purpose beats purpose. Every day you wake up, you have 48,600 chances to live your best life, because there are 48,600 seconds in every day.
And know that your journey is unique.
Come on.
That you're not going to have the same journey as anyone else. Like, don't compare yourself to what somebody else is doing, or you feeling like you should be accelerated way further than you are at the moment. It's just like, no, like, it's designed that way for you for a reason, and just understanding that. Because I remember going through a phase where I'm just like, oh, I should have been so much further along. Mm-hmm. And then you start getting people like, okay, what's going on? Like, then all of a sudden it's just like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like, now it's coming together. But like, you just have to, that's whenever you have to start like getting those people out of your ear. Like, oh, you a certain age, you still out there trying that little acting thing. You know how it goes.
Right.
And they just don't know. It's just like your break could be like right around the corner.
It's like, you have to remember, just like how we look at life and how we're living and how you can be, death is right there. Opportunity is always at the corner. All you got to do is take the step.
Right.
Hey, that's true. If somebody want to follow you and they want to keep up, tell us what we can watch, for the love of Jason, where we can find you on social media. How can we stay in contact with you?
Okay, so you can follow me on Instagram at Trell Woodberry. That's TRELLWOODBERRY. That's on all platforms. So Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Trell Woodberry. We do have For the Love of Jason. That's the series Instagram as well. FTLOJ series on Instagram. And then you can watch For the Love of Jason on UMC, watch UMC. And then as of, I think, next week, it'll be called All Black. The network is changing from UMC to All Black.
Come on. I saw that when I would turn on the episode, it said All Black. I was like, what is this?
Yes, so ALLBLK. So it's going to be a refreshed platform, a lot of new content. Definitely check out For the Love of Jason. I'm quite sure you'll be able to identify with one of the characters at least. But yeah, definitely. It's a lot more to come, and I'm sure we'll be back with season 2 to do a new recap.
Hey, now you got to leave us with a quote of inspiration before you give us some of your vitamin D, a dose of vitamin D.
Be careful how you treat people because you never know who has next.
Hey, thank you, Trell.
Thank you.
All right, you be blessed. Keep doing the dream and the vision and keep inspiring people out there.
Get your vitamin D right here with me and get excited about